Okay, back again. Here we are, Dr. Toker.
Like a bad rash, Rob.
Uh,
I am back again.
well, you went to Greece though,
I did. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. It was fantastic.
but it wasn't sunny there at all because you didn't
It
really get a tan.
I I am very white, Rob. I don't tan. I burn, then I freckle, and then the freckles peel off, and then I'm back to white.
Okay, there you go. So I don't know if you went through that whole cycle or not, but you look at least
Oh,
well. You look well rested. It hasn't.
yeah, I am pretty well rested. We had a good time. The food was amazing. The people are so friendly. Oh my gosh, if you've never been to Greece, you gotta go to Greece. People are super friendly. The food was great. And we saw a lot of the different little islands, and it was fan. It was one of our best vacations. My husband should take all the credit for that because he did all the research. He's military like you, Rob. It's like he was going to the like he did the recon as best you can do from a distance.
Yep.
And I have to say it all panned out because it was all just fantastic. It was just all amazing.
Good.
So anyway, it was definitely a lot of fun. And the kids, because they're older now, it's they're fun to travel with.
Oh, so you
So
brought the kids with on this one?
oh my gosh, oh yeah, we bring them all the time.
Okay.
We bring them every year from the time that they hit, I want to say like 9 years old. We've taken them every summer, with the exception of the COVID years, out of the country to understand that the world is sort of bigger than yourself.
Bigger
You
than
have
bigger than Texas.
It's bigger than Texas. And the cultures are different. Like there are different languages. This is what it sounds like. Bathrooms look different in other countries. This is what they look like. This is what people eat. And so you're not going to show up in Greece and ask for chicken nuggets. It's not going to happen. So my kids have learned very quickly how to be polite in other cultures, how to sort of wrap yourself around an environment and a culture to become kind of part of it. Because it's just more fun to travel that way, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
It's always kind of cringy to see someone order, a cheeseburger in paradise. Like, don't do that.
Right.
Eat what the locals are eating. I mean, if they're eating goat, hey, eat some goat. It's probably pretty good. Then it actually is quite good. So anyway,
It
so
probably
we
is.
I try to teach my children that. So I'm sorry, my camera went nuts.
There you go. I love it. I love it. So hey, welcome back. We were supposed to have Dr. Zananti on the program, but he got called
Great recording.
away. So
Oh,
we're gonna
don't
have to
worry,
have
Rob.
him. We're gonna have to have him back, just because it's gonna be a fun dynamic with you
Yes,
and
it is.
with,
And I
with,
apologize
with
for
you and
being
him.
late. Yeah, Ron, I know it's gonna be good.
Well,
The topic is.
you're on another program. It's just you're.
I'm becoming popular.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I know. It's great. Happy to have you back. I sent out this whole list of topics. It was going to be kind of fun connecting between the brain and what the gut is, but we'll stick to
Yes.
the gut. But there's
Yep.
some definite topics on there, and we're doing something different tonight. We're going to throw in a curveball. We're gonna instead of me coming up with these questions, all right? So we've got some people that have dialed in with some female questions.
All right.
See if they can stump the surgeon.
Stump the chump. I like stump the chump. All right, let's go.
Okay, here we go. So Muriel, let's see who do we have up first here? She on? There. Oh, look at that.
Hello.
Oh, look at that.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Okay, we got Tammy from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh,
We have
Tammy
her
from
on
St.
the
Paul.
Video Health Show. We've got Dr. Anna Toker. Tammy, thanks for calling in, and I think you've got a question on some women's health issue.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So, Dr. Toker, nice to speak with you. I'm a 56-year-old female. I have had a hysterectomy and both ovaries removed, and also had breast cancer. And after my last ovary was removed in 2018, The first 2 years, I didn't notice, the slowdown with my metabolism, but ever since COVID, reduction in a lot of steps, I've just noticed putting on weight and also, just metabolism really slowing down. So I wanted to ask you about, overall gut health, ability to increase the metabolism. What's any big secrets?
Okay, the secret of life. So first of all, I'll paint a picture for the audience. The things that Tammy has said that are important are she's missing the organs in her body that make hormones, so estrogen and progesterone. The second thing she said is that she's had breast cancer, which means there's no doctor that's ever going to give her those hormones, because breast cancer patients, if they get estrogen or progesterone, sometimes the cancer will come back. So, and I'm assuming that's probably what they've told you, Tammy. So now you got a person who's missing kind of critical hormones to normal function for women. So men make testosterone and women make estrogen and progesterone. These hormones in your body, so the estrogen, progesterone made in the ovaries, peripherally, as those circulate around your body, there are some cells in your body that will peripherally convert some of that hormone to testosterone. So when women make estrogen, by definition, they're making a little bit of testosterone. The same is a little bit, and the same is true in some men. As they make testosterone, some of it will convert to estrogen. And so the effects of testosterone that are extremely helpful are muscle mass and muscle maintenance, right? So testosterone is one of those hormones, and estrogen to some degree, but it really to maintain muscle mass. Now, muscle mass is where you get your energy from. So that's the little engine that could. That's where your metabolism comes from. That's where your energy comes from. And so if you're not making any estrogen, by definition, you're not converting anything to testosterone. So now you're missing the muscle maintenance hormone in addition to the things that estrogen and progesterone do for women, these are healing hormones for us. They help keep our skin reasonably thick. They help your hair stay nice. They're good for just sort of youth, which is one of the reasons why when you hit menopause, you start noticing wrinkles a little bit more. The skin gets a little bit more crepey. You're more prone to bruising. You lose muscle mass. You lose bone density. Right. So that's what's happening to you right now. That's kind of a pity. So what is the answer?
I'm
If
crying.
you don't
I'm crying.
God bless your soul, poor baby. And the thing is, if you're like a regular person without this cancer history, go down to your doctor, have them check your hormone levels, and if it's appropriate medically, perhaps they can give you oral or topical hormones to sort of pick up that gap. Okay. But in someone those hormones are going to hurt them, it's not appropriate. But you don't want to live in misery. So I get it. So some of the things that we can do to try to improve that, and this is kind of how gut health comes into play. So everything about your body, the way you absorb your nutrients, the way your body uses those nutrients, whether they go to muscle or they go to fat, actually depends on hormonal signals that are sent by the GI tract bacteria. And so things that you can do to feel better and be more energetic is support that bacteria. And the way we support that bacteria is by avoiding certain things, really modern life, name it, right? So you need to avoid artificial sweeteners and artificial fats, processed foods in general, soft drinks in general. Stay away from the sugar, stay away from the wheat, stay away from milk. Honestly, I know there's calcium there. There's other ways to get calcium, red meat, for example, supplements. So you're going to avoid those things. The other thing you really need to avoid is stress. Now, there's nothing more stressful to a woman than she's gaining weight. That alone is a stressor. But catecholamines in your system from chronic stress, because here you are working for a company and you've got marketing's hard, actually. So when you're working hard, you want to try to be as, I don't want to say zen as you can when you get home, but you want to lower those catecholamines, because catecholamines are sending a signal to your bacteria to do a couple of things. It causes bad guys to grow in faster proportion than the good guys. And then it actually changes the bioavailability of food to, you can actually absorb more food, believe it or not. So that is one of the reasons your blood sugar gets elevated. So hormones can raise your blood sugar. Chronic elevated blood sugar lowers your immune response, but also makes you put on fat. Right. So step number one for you would be avoid the things I talked about, then avoid stress. Then what I would tell you to do is do weight resistance exercises. It's the single most important thing a woman, especially as we get older, to support our bones and our muscles, is weight resistance exercises. And then, got to do it. And then make sure you're getting a good source of protein that has all the amino acids. So eat a varied diet. So not just chicken and not just fish, but like a vary of things. Red meat, if you want in limited amounts, is good for someone who can't do milk or is not doing milk because they want to stay away from milk. Red meat has calcium. Fish has calcium in it. Chicken has calcium in it. Right? So there's natural ways to get calcium without the milk. And so you're going to do those things, but lifting the weights is probably the single most important thing you can do, as far as I want to feel better, have more energy, and try to shed a little bit of the fat. You got to build muscle to shed the fat. Did I talk too much? That may have been too much. I'm sorry.
No. This was the components are great. The weight resistance training, I actually started doing a disciplined workout back in November, all strength training, and I've noticed a difference. I'm not losing any weight yet, but I definitely feel better.
Good. If you're feeling better from the muscle mass, one of the now are you doing the gluten-free thing, or what's your diet looking like?
No, not doing gluten-free.
She will be after tonight.
I had done gluten-free at one point before my second ovary came out. Might be time to revisit that again.
Yes. Yeah.
What about given her scenario that it's hard to get that second byproduct of the testosterone? Would she be a candidate possibly to just have like a little androgel or something that's very small dose that would help with that?
Yeah, you'd have to ask. The best thing to do would be to ask an oncologist. So breast cancer will not be sensitive to testosterone, but your body has this magical ability to convert these hormones back and forth. So if you take an exogenous testosterone, by definition, your body's going to want to turn it into some estrogen. That just is what it's going to be. So my thoughts are, an oncologist is probably going to say no to all of the sort of sex-related hormones, if I had to make a guess. I could be wrong, and I don't know the research on that. So I would consult the oncologist. If they would let you do it, that may be worth considering in very low doses. That way you don't grow a beard.
Yeah. Oh, good. We don't want to add that to the list.
I know, right?
The beard is less sexy than you might think. So you don't want to do that. But yeah, so lifting weights, and then as far as the weight loss part of it, is almost entirely going to be dietary. It's like that old saying that what you eat makes you look nice in a dress. Lifting weights makes you look nice naked, right? There's two different things, right? So building the muscle is going to give you some definition, but to get rid of that little layer, the simplest solution, I never advocate for starving ever, because you'll wind up losing muscle mass. So it's not so much about dropping the calories as much as it is balancing what it is that you eat and getting rid of inflammatory molecules like sugar, artificial sweeteners, wheat, and milk, because those are inflammatory things.
Okay. Okay.
And that tends to help when you do that. Especially, there's a couple of thoughts on intermittent fasting versus eating every 3 hours. It's sort of two schools of thought. Intermittent fasting on a daily basis, long term, may or may not help you. In the short term, fasting is actually helpful, but as a lifestyle can sometimes be difficult. Some people, after they've not eaten in 16 hours, will grotesquely
Overeat.
gorge. Yeah, and
Right.
overeat.
Bad decision time.
Listen to some good podcasts on that, and essentially, if you eat more calories in a shorter period of time than you would have doing eating regularly, you're not. It's not a benefit.
Well, and what I would tell you is the best way to maintain blood sugar. So your adipose tissue is a direct response to two different things. One is the amount of insulin circulating around your body, and the second one is the amount of inflammation in your intestines. All right. So if you want to trim down some adipose tissue, step one, get rid of
Which we all do.
Which we all do. All of us. Me. Look at me. Trust me. I am literally 25 pounds heavier than I was before I had children. And I'm certainly, as time goes on after menopause, this becomes an issue. So get rid of intestinal inflammation by avoiding those foods, as I mentioned, and then controlling the blood sugar by balancing what you eat. Your body needs to see protein, fat, and carbohydrates in the same meal at the same time. And when it does, it'll naturally know what to do with those nutrients in a positive way. And if you do small meals every 3 hours, you'll never be hungry. You'll never feel bloated or sick to your stomach, and your blood sugar will stay really maintained. So you can kind of, it is hard to do because you've been trained to eat 3 times a day and to avoid between meal snacking. You know the deal.
Right.
But it is a small meal 5-6 times a day. The calories will work out to be the same, but your body will use that much, much better and will serve your purpose a little bit better. You'll feed the muscles. The other thing that people don't do is they don't hydrate well enough. Your muscles are like 80-90% water, if not more than that. So if you're not drinking enough water, your body, even if it wanted to make muscle, can't maintain the muscle because you don't have enough water on board. It's going to have to make fat. Fat doesn't require that much water to maintain. So hydrating is actually a critical aspect to losing weight for a couple of reasons, but maintaining your muscle mass is the number one reason for that, if that makes sense. So drink your water.
No, it does. No, great insights, great tips. I like how you thread everything together of what impacts what. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay. Tammy, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, it was
I need
great.
after pictures, Tammy. Before after pictures. We want to know how it worked out.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
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 Okay.
All right. I hope I answered your question. Was I too long-winded?
No.
Once I start talking, I can't help myself. You know me, Rob.
No, that was how about this? Any woman or even man that listens to this and is in that state, all these things will certainly make sense to them.
It's helpful for every human being. Yes, it does not matter your gender or your age, really, for that matter.
Right.
So
it just gets more relevant as we get older.
It's more relevant as we get older. Yep.
All right, so let's see. What else did we have on our list of things we were going to talk about? So we were going to talk about a little bit of that. So one of those things, postmenopausal, I think that's one of the things that Tammy brought up, and then that's that conundrum. So if someone doesn't have, high-risk cancer recurrent, what's your thought then behind doing some hormone replacement therapy? You want to try to get yourself regulated to keep your levels,
Yes.
start producing and keep them in the normal range. Keep them back to when you were in your 20s and 30s.
You don't even need to go 20s and 30s. You just need to get premenopausal. But, so there's two schools of thought, and it can be quite frustrating because there are some doctors that when you hit menopause, that's it. They don't want you taking estrogen and progesterone because they don't want to cause breast cancer. And the reality is that while breast cancer has receptors to estrogen and progesterone, you frequently find it in people who are menopausal, not on any hormones.
Right.
So your body is coursing. We're not finding breast cancer in 20-year-old women that are teeming with estrogen and progesterone, or pregnant women where it's like off the charts what the hormones are. Right. That's a rare as hen's teeth genetic defect when we find that. So I'm kind of the scientific thought that your body is not going to all of a sudden develop cancer based on a hormone your body actually makes. Right. So the same is true for men and prostate cancer. Now, once men get prostate cancer, they don't want to add testosterone to the mix because that may make prostate cancer grow. But we find prostate cancer in old men. Almost all old men will develop some form of prostate cancer, a majority. Why? Because they're running out of testosterone. So to me, it seems much more likely, and of course, this is not based on a scientific study, it's just sort of based on logic and scientific reason, that as your body loses a hormone that tissues are accustomed to, they very likely are going to make manipulations to try to live in an environment without that hormone. And sometimes that adjustment is probably not good for your health. Right. And so to wrap that into nutrition, the reason we're all fat in the last 50 years is because we're exposing ourselves to toxins and our body's trying to figure out what the hell to do with these toxins. So it's making decisions based on an environment it shouldn't be in. And sometimes that decision is a bad one and turns to all kinds of different diseases. So if in my opinion, if you're healthy and have no family history of cancer, and you have your mammograms every year and you're going to your doctor, I'm down with the hormone replacement, frankly, especially if you hit menopause like I did at 40. I mean, you're going to lose muscle mass and bone mass
quickly.
So you don't, am I going to really live 50 years without estrogen and only get the 40 years with estrogen? Like that ratio seems grotesquely unfair.
Right.
Now, there's some debate. Should women take exogenous testosterone? Because there are some women who swear by it. That has its side effects. You're going to have to talk to your doctor about that. I won't advocate for that, except in the presence of your personal physician, because testosterone does have it doesn't belong in women. It just in smidge amounts. Smidge amounts. I mean, you really will grow hair, other things will grow big and other things will shrink small. So I don't really advocate unless someone is really titrating. She'd let a professional be the one
manage
who
that.
Kind of, who manages that. The same is true in men when they take testosterone. If they take too much, they will peripherally convert that to estrogen and start getting man boobs. Moobs. You don't want moobs. Moobs are not sexy, right?
Not a good look in Miami.
It's not. And testosterone can also make you a little, little angry, little angry. So you don't want to have your hormone levels off. A professional can help do that by drawing labs and that sort of thing, right? So that's my thoughts on estrogen and progesterone, whether or not you should take it. I'm all for it. I take estrogen and progesterone. And I have a very hard time living without it. It just hurts my feelings to think that someone would take me off of it for my cold, dead hands. But that's just me.
True. Okay, so let's see. Anything interesting happen in your practice? Anything interesting if people come in that you said, "Wow, that's a great story." Picking your brain here.
Yeah, you are picking my brain. Gee whiz. From a surgery standpoint, or from a medical standpoint, or from a diet nutrition standpoint?
Could either one. You pick it. You want to talk? Could be surgery. Could be. I mean, if they're going into surgery, something led them to that. So there's always something interesting that took them down that pathway of surgery.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Since we've been talking about how basically health, nutrition, and surgical issues. And then now I'm staring at a guy that I met because I do pelvic floor reconstructive surgery.
Right.
It probably is a good idea I had to have this conversation with someone. It's not unique, but it is a conversation that I have to have from time to time. And it typically will happen in someone who's like redheaded, for example, because it's not wives' tale, but people with red hair truly do kind of have a different metabolism. They metabolize numbing medicine and pain medicine different. And some of them form collagen very differently. And so in my practice, if I'm staring at a redhead and I'm about to operate on them, almost no matter what the surgery is, we wind up having a hernia discussion because some of those people, for whatever reason, once you make that incision, have just a hell of a hard time reconnecting that fascial tissue to strength. So while we suture it, you got to go into all these muscles, do surgery, peekaboo, and you make a hole there, and the body is supposed to sort of you put the ends together, and your body's
reproximate and make sure that.
No, it never gets back to 100%. Never, like not even the perfectest of human beings. Even in the thickest looking scar, it's never actually at 100% burst strength. But people who are super duper flexible, so think of those people who can take their thumb and touch their arm with it. You know anybody like that? So that's one of the screening tests that we do for a collagen disorder. If you can take this thumb and touch that arm over there, which I am not flexible and can't do, you may or may not have this condition, which means you potentially, if you had any surgery on a ligament or that goes through your belly, you're going to be prone to perhaps that not healing the way you want it to. The skin will look perfect and you'll see, I healed great. Didn't even leave a scar. That's my point. It does not even leave a scar. So I would say if you're one of those people, let's all do the test now. Everyone take your thumb. Can you touch your own arm with your thumb? If you just said yes, yeah, Rob's about as flexible as I am. So if you say yes to that question, then make sure before and after any kind of operation that you are ramping up on collagen and vitamin C. These two things have to be taken together to try to give your body its best chance to heal an incision. So that would be my advice. So that's kind of a conversation I had this week. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's a new one. So redhead, right? And then of course,
population. You always have to watch a redhead. Now, so my hair is like copper colored. It's not really red, but it was red as the day is long when I was a child.
Right. Plus freckles.
So, with freckles, and I had green eyes. All right. So trouble from the beginning. You probably have figured that out by talking to me. But I am not flexible. Now, I don't do local the same way as other people do, so it does wear off pretty quickly in me. But I don't think I'm like a true redhead. Some of those people, like, you cannot get them numb. They'll know this when they go to the dentist. Like, the dentist can't get them numb. Or just has to constantly, every 30 minutes, put in stuff when one person's face will, like, not wake up for a week.
Right.
Redhead keeps pulling it down, and they're not making it up, and they're not just being sort of emotional. Like, truly, that stuff wears off quickly in them. And so there's just an enzymatic difference in patients whose hair pops out as red, just so you know. And so there are some patients who are super flexible, and they don't have to be redheads, but I'm just saying the best test is this right here, regardless of your hair color. But if you're super flexible, you have a very specific need for high protein, collagen, vitamin C around any kind of injury or surgery to make sure that it heals properly long term, that you don't get the hernia or the popped tendon or whatever the case may be.
I'm gonna text you next time I have a redhead in the OR. I'm like,
Yes.
now I'm gonna start looking now.
Start looking at the number of people, and because you're with me in the operating room with rectal prolapses, start seeing the percentage of people with rectal prolapse have red hair.
Interesting.
And that's a pelvic floor hernia. It's because you don't make enough collagen. Pelvis is a broad
Connective
space.
tissue.
Connective tissue. There's a lot of connective tissue that needs to happen, and it is a large percentage of my patients with pelvic floor dysfunction have red hair. It's like,
Well,
I mean, it's not all of them, obviously, but it's like higher than the general population. How does that sound?
Right. That's my mom's side of the family, so that's like a lot of redheads and freckles, and so yes, but it didn't happen here.
Happen there? Mm-mm.
Okay, so that was interesting. What else? Anything else that's you've got you did a couple of pod or I guess TV shows, right?
So that yes, because that's kind of interesting. So, like what you and I are discussing right now, that sort of ties in when you eat something, what happens to it? Like, how does the gut like translate your steak into, double gun show?
Right.
So it's one thing to tell people what to eat, and it's another thing to tell them why that advice is so important. So I've been asked by a nutritionist. His name is Mark McDonald. He runs a company called PFC3. It's a program he developed with a behavioral specialist. Her name's Carrie Lipoli. So the two of them have developed a program that is sort of mind, body, lifestyle, how to eat something healthy, get your mind right about why that's important for you in particular, and then wrap that into your lifestyle so you never have to worry about food or the word diet should never come across your mind anymore, or anything like that. And the gut is actually a huge part of why his program works. We haven't talked about it yet because we're going to at some point, but your gut controls your brain. And so it's a body mind program. And the thing that ties those two things together is the GI tract. So he needed a digestive person to put in layman's terms what the hell happens, like how are we tying these two things together?
And that's kind of. And you recommended one.
What's that?
You recommended one, so you said, "Hey, I know somebody."
No, I actually did not realize he was going to ask me to do this for him. He and I met completely by accident. And I think he was taken aback that as a surgeon, I speak the same language that he does, because a lot of surgeons don't think in terms of nutrition.
Right.
They should. We learn nutrition as surgeons in the ICU to get our patients to survive traumas and that sort of thing. But we don't talk it in our private. We don't have time.
Yeah.
So it's odd to hear this conversation from a surgeon. And so because he was starting this new thing, it's got a TV show, it's got an online program where it's a one-time fee. You have lifetime access to the coaching and the information and the community group. So, I mean, that is an amazing value, to be honest with you. It's $250, lifetime access to name the specialists in the world. The TV show is a streaming service online, and he's on brinks.tv.com or just Brinks TV.
Yep. Brinks,
you could probably
Brinks.tv, right? BRINX.TV.
Yeah. And you can Google search that and see it's a yellow circle with a black X in it. And that's the icon. But when you log on Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock, you'll see something called the NIL House Nutrition. And that's his show.
Okay.
And so he will have me kind of come on and answer a question, sort of like I'm answering for you, once or twice a week. I was in Greece when they were really getting things set up. So I kind of missed out on the first couple of shows. I did have brief conversations with him, and those are supposed to populate at some point in time in a show. And then he and I will have a deep dive into what it is that I'm doing for him, probably in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so I'm developing his program is 100 days long. It's 1% learning 1% of something every single day for 100 days. And so my job is to mirror that as a companion. So it's 100 days, and it's just like a little tidbit every single day, from chewing to pooping and everything in between. What's important, what's not important. Then I also throw in little tidbits that he doesn't really talk about that much, which would be like, what does this herbal supplement do? You know, if I had diabetes and I really wanted to control my blood sugar, and the diet, the thing, the eating 5 times a day helps my blood sugar. Can I do anything else? Yeah. I mean, you could add cinnamon. You can take something called berberine. These things all help control blood sugar for a variety of reasons. So I add some of that in there also, because that's not something he really emphasizes in his program. He talks macronutrients. I'm kind of breaking it down into micronutrients, if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever.
So how many days do you have set aside already? So you have 100 days. How many days? How many days have you built out so far?
About 65.
Okay.
And the others are outlined. It's just a matter of filling out the outline.
Yeah.
You know, so I spend an hour a day kind of just typing on my computer some things. And if I put a sentence down that I'm like, is that a tokerism that I made up or not? Then I go to my favorite resource, which is NIH.org.
Okay. Yep. National Institutes of Health, right?
It's either .org or .gov. It's one of those. But the NIH has a database of every single paper ever written. So if you want to say, I tell people all the time, add cinnamon to something that will help you kind of control your blood sugar. It'll lower your blood sugar. And then I'll think, no, wait, am I just saying that because I'm parroting that because I've heard that before or seen it somewhere?
Or you just like cinnamon?
Oh, I love cinnamon. My husband calls me cinnamon because I got the little cinnamon spice. Anyway, so you just go to NIH and type in cinnamon and blood sugar and look at all the papers that pops up. And that helps me confirm that what I am saying has been studied. Right. So the tidbits about what the microbiome does, that comes from my researching of just kind of what are people writing? What's the research say? And it's very easy. You don't need an account. No. Anyone can look at the NIH site. So if you want to know something, most of it is there. It was censored a little bit 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm not going to go into why it was censored. I'm just going to say there may have been some censorship.
Times when not everything was put up.
Back when things maybe not have been put up or kind of hidden from the search or flagged by the search.
Right.
And the NIH has had to retract a lot of stuff. They posted. It's not a good look for science in particular. I do trust that website. I just don't trust.
The website's great.
The website's great. The timeline, that time in history will go down as a really bad time in history. Yeah. So I do look at the year when something was published. If it was published between 2020 and 2023, I don't know. Sometimes I question. So I do try to find stuff that's 2019 and earlier for this reason. And that's a terrible thing to say out loud, but that's just sort of my bias. I worry. But that's a great resource if anybody's interested.
Let's ask Muriel. Is it .gov or .org? ORG? There we go. So Muriel.
And so, in the modern era, a lot of people like to do their own research.
Right. And I use that all the time because I'm looking at fasciolata, and I want to see all the retrospective or prospective studies on use of fasciolata for stress urinary incontinence. So I can sit there and I can pull so much.
If you go to just plain old Google, or if you do the modern thing and do Chat GPT, because that's crowdsourced, some of the information you're getting is not going to be an official actual research study. So you want to separate your Google search. I use Google quite a bit. If I can't remember how to spell something or what the dose is or whatever, I do use it, but when it comes to I'm about to make a statement that's going to rock somebody's world right now. We're fitting to rock your world. Okay, I'm writing it down. I probably should confirm that it is accurate before I so boldly say such things. So that's the one I use, NIH.org.
Right, because you can reference, that it was done at Stanford, or it was done at Harvard, or Cleveland Clinic did a study, and so it's like, yes, we have some good sources then.
Exactly. So you want to do that, and if you really, I will say, I'm going to go off just since we're talking about research. I'm doing a lot of research for this guy's program.
Okay.
Chat GPT can do a couple of clever things for you. Make an account for Chat GPT. AI may kill us. Skynet is probably aware, but this is one very helpful thing as a researcher if you're doing your own research. Let's say you just read something, a paragraph. You can cut then paste that thing into Chat GPT and say, please find me the scientific resources for this statement. And it will literally, within a couple of minutes, go through the entire published history of the world in all different languages and will give you the reinforcement for that. So you can at least, it helps you in the modern world where you don't know what's fact and what's fiction. And that has been blurred, sadly, in the last few years. That's a helpful thing.
Right.
Give me the publication, author, the publication, and the page number to support the following paragraph.
Yep.
And it will do so. And then that way you're not getting someone making stuff up. I mean, it's published, and you can go to the article at NIH.org and you can confirm it, right? So that's the way. That's the little research lesson from me to your audience.
And it can also, if you're looking for, if you find one thing and you go, okay, this is one published source, where are the other ones, right? So you can then say, okay,
reverse engineer.
What other published source? And then you find that you go, oh, well, they did something in India, and they did something in Germany, and they did something out of Japan, and they looked at so it's like you kind of grab a lot of different.
Yep, they'll translate it for you in English. It's not a problem. So it really, as a graduate student, I would have killed for this research. Do you have any idea? Killed. My master's thesis has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of references, and I had to find every single one of those references. Microfiche, you remember the days? You're doing the microfiche. You're in the library just nonstop. Killing. How many trees did I kill to Xerox copy these papers so I could at least bring them home and read them in the coziness of my home? And now, honestly, cup of coffee, side of the mountain, as long as you've got a phone signal, you can NIH.org, you can Chat GPT your way to a perfectly resourced, legit, with statistics, etc., discussion for any paper that you wanted to. So I'm kind of jealous of the modern graduate students.
And they have this software that actually will grab the whole write up, of like where it was published and how and put it automatically into your appendix.
Oh, that is so cool.
I mean, really? You remember how you had to like retype it?
Yes. Let's see. That was.
You're like, is that italic? Is that supposed to be italic or underline?
Yeah, and God forbid you misspelled, the author's name or some crap like that. Oh my God. Yep, I remember those days. Wow, now I'm really jealous. Oh, yeah. These kids don't.
There's so many hacks. It's like unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. So I would never have ChatGPT write something for me, but I would definitely reverse engineer who wrote this and is any of it accurate. That I absolutely do like ChatGPT for. So
you can play around with it a little bit, and you can give it one of your patient presents with, and then you could see how they would then diagnose it.
It's kind of spooky. You'll never take away the talent of these hands. No artificial intelligence is going to be able to do that, but they will be able to diagnose things. And look, sometimes I wonder, God, wouldn't it be? I'm going to start sounding like a surgeon. And I know some of the people watching are not surgeons and they don't know. But this just in, surgeons do not like going to clinic. Now, I like talking to people, so I love my patients. But the act of having to write all that stuff down and uh, then make sure all the codes are in the right spot, and then monkey clicking all the buttons to make sure it actually goes to your insurance company,
Right.
and then monkey clicking more buttons to make sure I actually got paid. I don't like any of that. And wouldn't
I
it
don't
be
think anyone does.
No, it's god awful. When you're done with clinic, you've got 5 hours worth of paperwork to do.
Right.
And you don't get paid for that 5 hours. That's you taking up family time, just trying to get paid for what you spent all day doing. Right? This is on your time for free, right?
Right.
So it would be nice to have just like an AI on the cell phone that just you tell the patient, listen, we're going to start talking, and this is going to transcribe our entire conversation, and it's going to be the basis of our report. Are you okay with that? Yes. Okay, fine. Start talking.
It's coming.
And then the whole conversation,
Right.
and then the entire physical exam, and my final diagnosis is all before the patient and I have left the exam room. The note's done. Of course, it's artificial intelligence, so it's going to pop out codes and send it to the insurance company. Wouldn't that be amazing?
It's coming. It's coming.
Well, what would be, it is coming. What I'm looking forward to, and I may retire before this happens, is me sitting in the operating room. I didn't I didn't diagnose the patient. I get to meet them for the first time this morning. Hi, Ms. Jones, I'm Dr. Toker. I understand you have rectal prolapse. Did you watch the video on what's going to happen? Do you have any questions about that? Let's go over it one more time. Are you good with that? That's fantastic. Boom, surgery. That's it. And I would love that, because then I would get to operate all day long, Rob. That would be so awesome.
Well, I mean, so they do it right now for the hospitalists.
They do. Here's the thing. I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I love my patients. I enjoy knowing who their family is, who the kids are. I like seeing them in the grocery store and like, how are you doing, and that sort of thing. That's the human touch of medicine, which we are losing. And what I just described is absolutely, there's zero human touch to that whatsoever. When you know a person, when they walk in the room and they don't look well, you instantly know that they are not well, because you know them.
Yeah.
And there have been several patients where other doctors have missed that they're almost about to die because they weren't paying attention. I walk in the room, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, this is not right. Why do you look this way? What's happening here? So you got to have the human, the gestalt, you got to know what's happening.
Right.
And you would miss that. So it really is just a fantasy that I would get to operate all day long, because I would miss out on the human touch of it. I do fear that it probably is coming, but every surgeon's dream is truly just to be in the operating room all day long.
It's true.
But anyway,
It's true.
I digress.
It's true. Yeah, I was gonna say, you just need a partner, and then you can just kind of flip through and see who you want for your patients. And
I am going to do, I think, a demeanor test for my patients. So if you smile a lot, if you have a good sense of humor, if you're willing to, engage in just sort of casual banter, then I'm probably willing to take you as a patient. If you, on the other hand, think this is Burger King and you're just going to order stuff and boss me around because you're the patient, okay, I'm not your surgeon. Okay, so that is a rule right now. If you are rude to my patients, go somewhere else. I mean, to my employees. And there's a couple of patients that are on a time, and COVID made that worse, to be honest with you. I'm sorry I said that word out loud, but the last 3 years, everyone's patience is worn so thin. The anger issues are flaring, and then people take out their own personal issues on my office staff. The reality is, my office staff is not responsible for your insurance paying for this surgery.
Right.
I submit a bill, and your insurance company said no. And that's not because I'm incompetent. It's because you have bad insurance. I'm like, ugh. So, I'd rather not have those conversations with people. So I think when I get close to retiring, that's it. I'm going to do like one of those personality tests.
Yeah, just do a pre-screen. It's like they do it right now for interviews, right? Even before you get past
Yes.
that
I
first
think I'm gonna do
interview, they have call
I'm going to do it.
call this number, and then
Yeah.
we're gonna ask you some questions, and just tell me a little bit about yourself, and tell me about your just a small little 5 minutes of your your
Fine.
personal medical history, and then what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah. And there, in fact, I was thinking about that actually today, that I should create like not a marketing funnel, because I'm not looking to capture more patients. I'm simply looking to have a happier environment in my office, because I know you can't, the government controls how much I get paid per patient and for what it is that I do. There's no way around that. It just is what it is. And I'm okay with that. It's, but to have people sort of dampen your day in addition to dealing with government stuff is difficult. So if I'm going to deal with government stuff, I need to have happy, friendly people around me. So I was thinking about creating kind of like a funnel, you know? Like, is the following joke funny or not? Like, right? It's like, do you have pets? You have to have pets. At some point in your life, you have to have had a dog or a cat or something. Tell me about your pet. If you can't answer that question, I'm sorry, you're just not the person for me. It's got to happen. Somewhere along, you had to have a pet rock or a frog. Tell me the story. I want to hear about it. I think that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
And then that shows me you're a human being and that you're not a disgruntled all the time, post 2020 kind of a person.
I had a pet turtle.
You did? Did you get salmonella from it?
No, no.
Oh, okay. Did it
the
blow up? Did it die? Did you kill it?
no the
Or did
neighbor
it
the
just...
neighbor stole it.
No, you're so sad.
I think I was probably like 7, 8 or something.
7. Did the neighbor steal it? Okay, well, wait a minute now, Rob. I'm going to have to do a psychological evaluation with you real quick. Did the neighbors steal it, or did your parents find it dead, panic, and tell you it ran away? Because I've done that to my own children. Like, why does the goldfish look different today? Oh, well, she went to visit her cousin, and then her cousin came here. So this is your goldfish's cousin.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Little swap. House. Gold
So
swap.
go ask your parents. Did the neighbor kid actually steal my turtle, or did you find it dead somewhere?
Well, guess what? We're going to find out next program.
Oh,
Right?
I want to hear
That's
that.
how we get people coming back.
I need to hear that answer.
Okay.
And see, and then when you try to make an appointment for me, you will have that story to tell.
Right.
Because I want to hear that story.